What is going on, everybody? We have NFL Week 10 Sunday slate starting tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Honestly, this video is starting to become my favorite video to record every week. I do it really late on Saturday night, after the whole week is done and everything. And I just look forward to it. It gets me excited for the NFL slate. I enjoy breaking down these plays for you. If you're one of the VIPs, you probably already seen all of these plays be posted on Odd Shopper Tales and the Discord. If you want to become a VIP, you can get all these lines super early in the week so you can get ahead of line movement. There hasn't been a ton of line movement in general this week on my plays, but like last week, we had Bijan Robinson. I bet him like under 75.5 yards, and by kickoff, he was down to like 60.5. The week before, we had a similar line. So typically, we're getting ahead of a lot of line movement. Really not too much either way this week, but I'll get into that in a minute here. First, before I get into the plays, number one reminder, if you want to join the free Discord, we have a great community. It's been a lot of fun during the NBA and NFL season so far. And if you want to join it, the link to join is located below. I'll also pin it in the pinned comment below too. So it's easy to find, but we have about 1,700 people in the server. It's pretty active, especially around the NFL and NBA seasons. I'm trying to think of better ways to boost the engagement in there. So just come on in, join, be an active member of the community, and post your slips, post your questions, just be an active member, be a good person. Number two, like I just mentioned before, the VIPs got this earlier in the week. They got most of these plays just all throughout Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you want to become a VIP, you can get a 7-day free trial by using the link located in the description below. I'm actually about to be running a massive promotion on that too. There will be more details to follow. I'll probably announce more of it in my NFL video for next week, for week 11. And I'll probably touch on it in some NBA videos once I get it all settled. But basically, it's going to be a really big promotion. I hit 1,000 followers on Odd Shopper Tales, and we have Black Friday coming up. So it's going to be a perfect storm, something I'm going to be doing for probably 2 or 3 weeks long in the month of November until the rest of the month when I release it. But quite honestly, if you want to become a VIP, this is probably the best deal that you are ever going to get on my VIP. And it will, trust me, you're going to like it. And then lastly, the tool that I'm using here in the video is Outlier.bet. It's not a free website. It is a paid website, but honestly, I use it every single day. I've used it every day for about 2.5 years now, I think. It's such a cool tool. I mean, it saved me so much time in my research, going through all these player props and the trends and everything. And it's just really a great tool out there. And if you want a 7-day free trial for that, there's a link located below too. But I've rambled enough in the beginning of this video. Let's jump into the plays because I've got a lot. Just looking at my notes here, I have looks like 7 straight bets for you guys, and then I'll go through 4 parlay fillers too, maybe even 5. I know I have a bonus one in here that I kind of like. So it's gonna be a longer video. I released this really late on Saturday night. It's kind of like my end of week tradition. So hopefully you guys like it. Let's get into the plays. The first play that I posted this week was James Cook over 83.5 rushing yards. It is now up to 84.5. So really not a ton of line movement either way. He actually had like an injury scare earlier in the week. I can't remember exactly what it was. I remember seeing him pop up on the injury report as like a limited or a non-practice. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday earlier in the week, but seems like he's good to go as far as I'm aware at the moment. And we're going to go with his over 83.5 rushing yards, 84.5 now. Main reasoning for this, Cook is averaging 108.4 rushing yards per game this season. He's gone over this number in 6 out of 8 games so far. And the only 2 games that he didn't were in the loss against the Patriots in that primetime game, and then in week 1 in that absolute like massive shootout against Lamar Jackson, which was a really fun way to start the season. But Cook didn't really need to get involved in that game much because it was just such a passing game shootout. But basically, Cook is averaging 120.3 yards per game in road wins the last 2 seasons. So if I filter for away games, and if I filter for 1/0 or more, which essentially just shows other wins, and I look at last 10 games, you see the average of 120.33 rushing yards per game. Great matchup for him against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are the 3rd worst rush defense in the NFL when it comes to giving up rushing yards to running backs. And they're giving up 119.4 rushing yards per game this season. We had Derrick Henry Vidal, Dowdle, and James Cook himself, they've all gone for 108 or more yards against the Dolphins in recent weeks. And they've also allowed 5 running backs to go for 84 plus just in general this season, too. So I think it's a really good spot for Cook. Honestly, if you want to ladder it up to like 100, you're probably fine going there. I know he had that 216-yard absolute explosion a couple of weeks back, but I mean, that's just a total outlier. I would ladder up to 100, probably stop there, maybe 110 if you're feeling a little frisky, but I love this Cook spot. I expected this line to actually move a bit. I really thought it was going to be up to like, I don't know, 89 and a half or something by the time kickoff came, and there wasn't enough steam on it. So we'll just take this 84 and a half number and hope it hits for us. Next play, I'm going to stick to the same game here, and we'll go with Dalton Kincaid over 18 and a half yards on the longest reception. So Kincaid has gone over this number in 6 out of 7 games this season, and the one miss was on 18 on the dot, so he just missed the going over the 18 and a half. He's number 3 on the team in target share. He's got about a 15% share of all the targets that the team has. But this is like an amazing matchup for him. I have 2 plays on Dalton Kincaid. I'll touch on the second one right after this. It's a parlay filler. But basically, the Dolphins, they're allowing the 4th most receiving yards per game to tight ends at 68.2 yards per game. And they've allowed a 19-plus yard catch to Likely, Andrews, Pitts, Fannin, and Gadsden in recent weeks. So that's 5 tight ends who have had a 19-yard reception or higher in recent weeks against the Dolphins. The other play I'll touch on here, it kind of goes hand in hand with this matchup. Plus the parlay filler, over 19 and a half receiving yards for Kincaid for all those same reasons. Dolphins giving up 68.2 receiving yards per game to the tight end. Great spot for him. Gone over this number every single time. And the Dolphins have given up. Let me scroll down to my notes because I usually keep those at the bottom. But the Dolphins have actually allowed 12 tight ends to go over that 20 receiving yard number against them this season. So that's 12 tight ends going over that number in, I think, 9 or 10 games. Can't remember if they had the bye or not, but great spot for Kincaid. Moving on to my next play. This play is one that moved down quite a bit when I initially posted it. So my initial post was Rachaad White under 47 and a half rushing yards. It is down to 43 and a half on Underdog Fantasy. I'm still taking it at this 43 and a half. I think I actually made a slip with it on the 43 and a half, and that's even with Bucky Irving officially being ruled out again, which honestly, we kind of expected that from the start. But basically, this matchup against the Patriots run defense is something that I have just been slamming unders the entire season. You know, we had the under on Bijan, we had the under on Judkins, we had the under on Pollard, we had the under on, we've been just pounding these unders against the Patriots run defense. They are the best run defense in the NFL. Not a lot of people are realizing this, but they're only allowing 53.8 rushing yards per game, and they still have not allowed a single running back to go for over 50 yards against them. So I absolutely loved this play when it was 47 and a half. 43 and a half is a little bit more dicey, but it is still a really good spot for them to contain Rachaad White. So I wouldn't mind taking the 43 and a half. I actually have it on one of my slips. And like I said, this Patriots run defense, it's legit. Like I am not going to be taking any running back overs against the Patriots probably for the entire season. And I'll probably just keep hitting these unders against them for the rest of the way, to be honest with you. Moving on to another rushing prop that I am on this week, but this is an over. We are going with Jackson Dart over 36 and a half rushing yards. The reasoning behind this one, Dart is averaging 41.8 rushing yards per game on 8.2 attempts in the 6 starts that he had this season. You could throw out those first 2 games, or the 6 games where he played the majority of the time. He had a lot of rushing yards. So basically, he's gone over 54 yards in all 4 of his hits, going over this 36 and a half number. The Bears, they're only allowing 22.2 rushing yards per game to quarterbacks this season. However, they have only faced 2 running backs that have rushing upside. You're not going to see the full story here because it only shows, I think, the last 5 recent weeks of Underdog, and you see Flacco and Rattler, but they did face 2 rushing quarterbacks in the last 5 weeks. These are the only 2 main rushing quarterbacks that they faced all season. Huntley had 53 yards. Daniels had 52 yards. Dart's going to get around the same amount of carries as both those guys have, with this average of 8 per game or so. I think he should easily be able to go over this number. And, not a lot of you guys remember this, but, Ben Johnson, he was on the Lions, and I get it. He was the offensive coordinator for the Lions, and he doesn't really control much on defense. But Justin Fields used to run all over the Lions for years over years. I'm expecting Dart to do the same against the Bears. Maybe Ben Johnson takes some of his defensive tendencies from how the Lions used to do it, just the way he hires his personnel and things like that. But anyways, I like this Jackson Dart play going over the 36.5 rushing yards. I posted this one on Friday, so the line probably shouldn't have moved too much at this point. And I'll be boosting this through a lot of plays on Underdog Fantasy. I think this line is just way too low because he easily can get like 50, 60 yards in this one. I don't think he's going to end up with like 40 or so. I think it's going to be like a 50+ yard performance for Jackson Dart. Sticking with the theme, I guess I'd love some rushing props this week, but we're going to go with Tyler Shuck. I think that's how you pronounce his name, under 13.5 rushing yards. It's still that number on Underdog Fantasy. On PrizePicks, it's 11.5. So, if this moves to 11.5 by the time of you watching this video on Underdog, not sure if I'd want to take it at 11.5, but this 13.5 number is an amazing number. So it's only his third game, but he's gone under this number in his two starts, or his two main games this season. He's never really known as a runner. I mean, he ran for a bit before he got to Louisville, but in his senior year with Louisville, I think he only had like 42 rushes on the season. Like he's not a big time rushing quarterback. The Panthers, the matchup for him is as tough as it's going to get. They only allow 12.1 rushing yards per games to quarterback this year, and that's fourth best in the NFL. They have only allowed two quarterbacks to run for more than 12 yards against them. Those two guys were Justin Fields and Kyler Murray. I wouldn't put Tyler Shuck in that conversation of Justin Fields and Kyler Murray of rushing quarterbacks. So under 13.5, that's a definite. Under 11.5, a little bit more dicey, but I do think it's a solid play. But just to note, I think Trevor Lawrence ran for 12 yards against Carolina earlier this year. So the trend's not as strong, but it's still a very strong trend just altogether. I've got, it looks like, two more straight bets before I get into the parlay fillers. Let me just have a sip of water really quick. Okay, so next straight bet is going to be Zach Charbonnet over on the longest reception of 5.5 yards. He has gone over this number in 5 minutes of the last 7 games. Basically, he's not a really strong receiving running back, at least not this year. He's only getting like 1 or 2 targets a game. You see, he had 0 targets in the first 2 games. So honestly, these would have pushed for you if he took his longest reception and he didn't get a target, which is nice. But you see 2 targets, 2, 1, 2, 1. Like, you're not really going to get much out of him. However, in all the games where he had a target this year, he had 6 or more yards on the catch. And looking at last year, he went over this number in 15 out of 17 games. Honestly, this is the prop that probably scares me the most out of all the ones, just because I don't typically take a line like this on a longest reception for a guy who just doesn't get a lot of receiving work. It's kind of like a luck box play in a sense. He's probably going to get the 1 target. It's just a matter of what he's going to do with it. So play this one lightly. I have it on 1 slip, and that's why I wanted to mention it with you guys, just because I kind of like the trend. And you see, like, this 15 out of 17, super nice, in the 1 game without a target too. So really, it's 15 out of 16 games with the longest reception of 6 yards or more. You can even filter for games, with Kenneth Walker, but quite honestly, like, what difference does it make when you're hitting essentially every single one of those games here? So with with Walker, 7 out of 10 games, but he, 3 games without a target. So I don't know. I like the play. I wanted to share it with you guys just because it was a find, and maybe it works out. I hope it does, because I have him on the 1 slip. My last regular play before I get into the parlay fillers, we're going to go with Gadsden, who is an absolute stud. Rookie wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers, who really has broken out in the last 4 weeks or so. So he's gone over this number in 5 out of 7 games this year, going over 4.5 receptions in each out of his last 4 games. He's number 3 on the team in target share with 17.7% in the last few weeks. That's when he started getting that increased role with the Chargers. The matchup's great. I love targeting pass catchers against the Steelers. The Steelers are allowing the 8th most receptions to tight end this season with 6.2 per game. And they've allowed 5+ catches to all the other pass catching tight ends that they faced this year. So, every team has the main tight ends. You have your like Trey McBrides, your Brock Bowers, your Gadsdens, your I guess Hunter Henrys in a sense. Tyler Warren, a lot of these pass catching tight ends, and then you have the blocking guys who generally get like one or two, reception a game, maybe, 2 or 3 targets per game. So I would consider Gadsden in the same conversation as these pass catching tight ends. And the Steelers have given up 5 or more catches to Hunter Henry, Tucker Kraft, Harold Fannin, and Tyler Warren, and all the other tight ends who aren't pass catching tight ends were just irrelevant here. But every time they face one of these main pass catching guys, they've allowed 5 or more catches. So I'm gonna ride that trend. I think Gadsden's a stud. I think he's gonna absolutely show out in prime time again. And it's tough because like I want to target this Steelers defense with the Chargers passing game, but it's so difficult to decide which one to go with because you have Keenan Allen, you have McConkey, you have Johnston, and you have Gadsden. They're all fairly even. Allen and McConkey are 1A and 1B essentially. But their lines are pretty, like all their lines are inflated. So it's very tough to pick the guy who is going to get the yards. And the Steelers are going to give it up. I wouldn't be shocked if like Allen, McConkey, and Gadsden all went over, or like, McConkey, Johnston, whatever. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if 2 of these 4 guys went over their receiving props. I just don't know which ones are going to do it because the Steelers defense we've been targeting the entire season. And we probably will do it next week, whoever they're up against, but it's just tough against a team like the Chargers who spread it out a lot. I do have Gadsden as a parlay filler though. I think I had this saved here, but I don't have it written in my notes, but I did like his over 24.5 receiving yards over on PrizePicks. I mean, he smashed this number in the last 4 games, and that just kind of goes along with the trend against the Steelers too. And they gave up a ton to the tight ends, obviously. So the 24.5 receiving yards, I probably have to add it to the notes on Odd Shopper because I don't see it in here, but this is a play that I like this week. That's all the regular plays. Now let's get into the parlay fillers, the goblin locks, essentially. This video is a bit longer. I like the slate this week. I have a lot of plays, so we got to get through them. First one here is Kyle Pitts, over 24.5 receiving yards. Basically, he's gone over this number in 7 out of 8 games this season, while averaging 47.8 receiving yards per game. He's the number 2 on the team in target share with 20.7%, and he actually is looking pretty good this season. Kyle Pitts, he had the running joke for all these years, like he's a total bust. He's been solid. I've liked him pretty much just all around for fantasy and just for props and everything this year. He's been awesome. So great spot for Pitts. The Colts are allowing the most receiving yards, the 3rd most receiving yards to tight ends this season at 74.9 per game. And they've allowed 11 different tight ends to go for 25 or more yards against them this season so far. I like this spot for Pitts, and I'm going to be riding it as a parlay filler. Another play. So I was just talking about a minute ago how I want to target the Steelers defense, and I'm really not sure how. It's Justin Herbert. That's how I'm going to do it. So we're going to go with Herbert over 209.5 passing yards. He's gone over this number 7 out of 9 games this season, but he's averaging 266 yards per game, essentially. Steelers, worst in the league against the pass, 278.2 yards per game against them. And every quarterback they have faced this season has gone over this 210 number. So Justin Herbert's a stud. I think he's going to just keep riding that trend, and I wouldn't be shocked if like every quarterback for the rest of the year goes for over 210 against them, because we'll just keep taking this every week as long as you're getting a really decent prop against the Steelers. Moving on, just gonna try to wrap things up quick here because we're getting pretty long, but I got one more play. It's Dalton Schultz over 19.5 receiving yards. Gone over this number all 8 games, averaging 48.1 receiving yards per game. Great matchup for him against the Jags, 2nd worst in the league against tight ends, giving up 75 yards per game to tight ends this season, and they've allowed 11 tight ends to go for 20 or more yards against them this year. So great spot for the alternate line on Schultz. I guess it's like National Tight End Week for me because I love all these tight end receiving yards props on the alternate lines. And then there is one play I do want to just mention. I haven't bet it myself. I'm kind of on the fence if I wanted to, but it's this Kyren Williams over 59.5 rush plus receiving yards. He's gone over in each of his last 8 games this season, and each out of his last 16 games last year. So that's 24 games in a row of him going over this 59.5 rush plus receiving yards prop. The reason why I'm not convinced on betting it is because the matchup is okay. You have to filter, you have to go in the receiving yards and then for the rushing yards. So they're only allowing 33.7 receiving yards per game, which is solid for the matchup for him there. But if you look at the rushing yards, it was a little bit more difficult. They're only allowing 88.1 rushing yards per game. That's all running backs combined. So that's not one individual guy, but they're kind of middle of the road. But if you want to go with that alt line on the rush receiving yards, 59.5, I mean, it's been 24 games straight. So you might as well just give it a shot if you really wanted to. But that's gonna wrap up all of the plays for the week. Longer video, sorry about that. We got about 20 minutes so far. So, like I mentioned before, join the free Discord. Link to join is in the pinned comment below. If you want to become a VIP, be on the lookout for this promo that I'm about to run because it's gonna save you so much cash if you want to get all of my picks for a long time. So that's why it's important to be in the Discord. I'll do a massive announcement in there. If we get a lot of people signing up for it, I'll start doing a lot of giveaways and stuff too. So just be on the lookout for that one. Hopefully you guys liked this video. If you did, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video too. And best of luck on your bets tonight, everybody. Thanks for watching.